All right, fight fans, welcome back and welcome to FFL Review. This is an exclusive original series from FFL Plus where we dive into some of the league's greatest fights, greatest moments, and we dissect what happened in the fight, what went wrong, what went well, and maybe we can learn a little bit of something from these epic clashes. We got an exciting one for our inaugural episode here. We go back to Night of Champions 3, where we see one of the biggest rivalries in all of the MCC and the FFL. The corporation's Amanda Lioness Nunes against the Nation of Domination's Chris Cyborg. These two, such an incredible rivalry throughout the years, but more so this year when we look at the progression of Chris Cyborg on the league and the Nation of Domination, and we see the dominance of Amanda Nunes finally coming fully into her own, her prime with the corporation and Max. And this was really set up to be one of the best fights of Night of Champions 3. Both were peaking, both were in incredible shape, and both came into this fight. It was a pick 'em, essentially. I mean, you could argue that Cyborg was the underdog, but it was as close to a pick 'em as pick 'ems can be. And on this night, we saw so many epic moments in this fight. An incredible fight, one for the ages, and I think it's very fitting to have this as the inaugural episode of FFL Review. So let's dive in. All right, so a little bit of a spoiler here. Night of Champions 3 had some epic fights on it, and we will be detailing and reviewing another fight from this series between these two fight camps. These two fight camps had two unbelievable fights on this card. Israel Adesanya and Daniel Cormier for the light heavyweight title, another epic clash. But we're here to talk about Amanda Nunes and Chris Cyborg. So when we look at this fight, before we even get into the fight itself, we got to talk about the paths to victory. And the corporation, Max, is known to be an incredible boxer. Just has great range control, great ability to use the jab. It's really hard to get him off of his boxing. Great counter puncher. Max is probably one of the most complete fighters in this league, and the corporation fight camp just does a great job overall. We go over to the Nation of Domination. We look at AJ, an incredible counter striker, uses the kicks very well, uses multiple level changes throughout the fight. And AJ has an uncanny ability throughout the fights to adjust to his opponent. So when we go into this fight, we're looking at the paths to victory for both fighters. And if you're Amanda Nunes heading into this fight, you have to work the jab. You got to work behind the jab. Everything has to work off of that. And of course, as you get into the fight, you got to use that wrestling base, right? You got to use the wrestling, clearly an advantage there. And the wrestling can only lead to one thing if you're Amanda Nunes, the most devastating ground striking in the league. She's finished incredible opponents with that ground striking, and it doesn't take much for her to get a finish when it comes to that ground striking. So if you're Amanda Nunes, you got to work the jab, you got to wrestle, you got to ground strike, and of course you got to work inside. You got to minimize the range of Chris Cyborg, and you have to make this fight dirty and get the fight where you want it to be. And if you're Chris Cyborg, you got to use the legs. You got to slow down Amanda Nunes. You got to punish Amanda Nunes for coming inside. Every time Amanda Nunes tries to close that distance, you got to make her pay, whether that's kicks to the body, damaging the stamina, kicks to the legs to stop the mobility, or head kicks even, front kicks. Kicks are a big weapon for Chris Cyborg, and we've seen AJ use them very well throughout his fight camp's tenure. You got to vary the strikes against Max. That's something you have to do. Chris Cyborg, her strikes are very fast. And so you have to be able to switch levels and find those openings, especially with the aggression of that boxing on the other side. And then something that AJ does very well with the Nation of Domination and Chris Cyborg does very well is that counter striking, right? Look for your openings on those 2 and 3 strike combos that are coming out on the other side and see if you can counter off of a looping hook or, a looping counter in that way. And then finally, the most important thing for Chris Cyborg, we know that Amanda's going to want to grab that leg, want to clinch at times and make this fight dirty. If you're Chris Cyborg, you simply have to work outside. You got to keep this fight on the outside, and you have to be able to keep her at range and finish your punches at the end of their range to keep Amanda on her toes. So those are the paths to victory. And as we dive into this fight, we're going to see which fighter does a better job of executing their game plan. All right. So we're heading into this epic clash between these two. So much on the line, so much at stake. And really, this was a pivotal moment for both fight camps. It established Amanda Nunes as the most dominant female in the FFL. And it also proved that Chris Cyborg is absolutely still the same, if not better, than the fighter we saw in the MCC, the most dominant force that we had seen up until that time. Chris Cyborg 10-0 in the MCC to start, her only loss coming at Mirko Mania. And so you expected to see nothing but that in this fight. And so here we go. We're going to kick us off here. And if you remember the paths to victory, we talked about Chris Cyborg needing to stay on the outside and Amanda needing to get in close. And that's a theme that you're going to see throughout this fight. But this first round is really one of the most dominant rounds that I've ever seen in the FFL. Chris Cyborg showed us something unbelievable in this. So the fight starts with a check kick, and that's telling because it means that AJ is on the block and he is going to be counter-striking, which is one of the paths to victory for Chris Cyborg. You see Amanda working the jab, but what you're going to notice in this first round is that because of the variety in the strikes, and you're going to see it start here with Chris Cyborg, Amanda is forced to be a little bit more aggressive, and you can see some looping strikes, things you're not used to seeing from Amanda, happen in this first round here. And there's the variety we're talking about, right? Going to every single level. Chris Cyborg, AJ doing a great job of switching levels to get that guard down of Amanda Nunes. And look at the pace from Chris Cyborg up until this point. This is a Chris Cyborg that we had seen way more calculated in her previous fights. But man, did she unload the gas tank in this first round. It was unbelievable, the pace. You can see Amanda getting some real good counterpunching in. But this was really the most that we saw from Amanda Nunes in this first round, because what we're going to see here shortly is just a complete barrage from Chris Cyborg, and it's all off the counter strike. So I'm going to pause this and I'm going to go backwards, because what we saw for the first minute or so of this fight was Amanda working off the jab, which she does again. But we also saw Amanda throwing 3 and 4 strike combos. And I think the Nation of Domination picked up on that. And you can see already, before even throwing a strike, Amanda's got half her stamina, right? So she's going to throw the rangefinder jab out there. And she's going to connect. But notice who went first in this exchange. It's AJ that goes first with the jab. And by the time the combination comes out from Amanda, the straight is there for Chris Cyborg, and that's going to drop Amanda Nunes. Not something we're used to seeing in the FFL, but Amanda gets dropped off the counter strike. And It's going to seem a little bit like deja vu here in a few seconds, but we see it again. Same thing. Amanda over zealous a little bit with the strikes. Looks like she loads up here. You can see this right here, this leg. Looks like she loads up for the front kick or the knee, and boom. Right away. That straight gets right through the block and floors Amanda Nunes. So 2 drops already in this first affair, and it looks like the fight is going to end quick here. But look at the toughness of Amanda Nunes. Beautiful reversal using the wrestling, and here's the ground and pound we talked about. But here's the difference. Here's the difference, and I need to make this really clear. The thing that Chris Cyborg did in this first round was not just the striking prowess, the ability to change levels, to counter strike, to drop Amanda, but it was the grappling that was the most surprising. Look at this bottom control defense. Gorgeous. Right into stack guard, raining down strikes, and Chris Cyborg's no slouch at the ground striking. But she knows where her bread and butter is. She knows what she needs to do. And I'm going to point out one other thing here, and you're going to get tired of me saying these things, but I got to point it out. Chris Cyborg absolutely empties the tank in round 1. Look at the stamina. And this is going to be a theme throughout the fight. Is it a sprint or is it a marathon? And what we see throughout this fight is Amanda finding ways to weather the storm of Chris Cyborg. Sometimes unbelievably. Sometimes you can't even believe that she weathered the storm, but she does. Nice inside leg kick there. 2, doubling them up. And this is the subtle approach the cerebral approach of the corporation. You got to pay attention to the legs. That's 3 leg kicks that have landed heavy from Amanda Nunes in the last 15 seconds here, right? And while they're not doing a lot of damage, it makes AJ check the kick. And what did we say? We said the path to victory for Amanda Nunes is the jab. Well, if the guard is high for Chris Cyborg, Amanda's going to have a hard time getting the jab through. But if you attack the legs, you're going to open that guard. And that's what Amanda's trying to do here. That's what Max is trying to do. Very cerebral in this first round. Also trying to weather the storm, right? I mean, look at the pace AJ's putting on and the Nation of Domination. Chris Cyborg on a completely different level than we've seen. And I think it caught Max off guard a bit. Look at the variety in the strikes from Cyborg. The 1-2 was coming out so quick. Amanda's head is still blinking. I mean, look at the head health. Again, leg kick. Straight. Body kick. The variety in the strikes in this first round was incredible, and you're going to want to pay attention to that. I know I'm going to say variety a lot because it goes away later in the fight, and it's the biggest change in this fight. Look at the stalking. Look at the aggressiveness of Cyborg. Has, again, Amanda badly damaged. She's going to go to the clinch with the knees. Look at the variety. But, and again, don't be upset at me, guys. Look at the stamina. You simply cannot mismanage your stamina against Amanda Nunes. And while it may not seem like a big deal here in round 1, and the amount of damage that she's putting out is tremendous, Amanda Nunes is one of the toughest fighters in the league. And if you get your stamina low, you might be having a bad time later in the fight. Another outside leg kick. Chris Cyborg, the 1-2. The variety of the strikes. Again, we talk about it. Outside leg kick. How tough is Amanda Nunes, though? Big head kick from Amanda. Keeping her honest. Cyborg emptying the tank. Look at that. Again. And this moment, I remember watching this live. Shout out to the FFL. Shout out to the booth. But when Amanda threw this kick, I was unbelievably concerned because I knew that the overhand just came out from AJ, and I was legitimately concerned that this could be a knockout. So first round, what did we learn? Well, we learned that Chris Cyborg is a dangerous bitch. That's what we learned. We learned that Amanda Nunes is unbelievably tough. But let's go back to the paths to victory. We learned that fighting on the outside, varying your strikes, and counterpunching proved to be an incredible strategy for winning this fight for Chris Cyborg. Amanda got a little bit impatient. She lost track a little bit, and she had to play a lot of defense in round one. This is why Amanda Nunes is the champion, heart of a champion, and is the greatest fighter in the league in the women's division. The corporation and the Nation of Domination have an uncanny ability to adjust throughout the fight. And not just, oh, okay, you've been kicking my legs, I'm going to check the kick now. Truly a complete change of strategy. And what you're going to see in this second round is Max's ability, the corporation's ability, and Amanda's ability to take in all the information from round one and adjust to Cyborg's strategy. She knows that Cyborg is looking to end this fight. She knows that AJ is ready to pounce. And she also knows that Cyborg's overextending a bit with the stamina. And heading into round two, Cyborg had less stamina than Chris Cyborg. Chris Cyborg had less stamina than Amanda Nunes. And look at what Max starts doing. Again, Cyborg's so aggressive. He is going to get the stun early, but less about the stun early because that's been happening all fight. I want you guys to pay attention to what Max starts to do 20 seconds into the second round, okay? He's going to start digging the body of Chris Cyborg. And that's important for a few reasons. The first reason it's important is because it's going to drop the guard of Chris Cyborg, and unprotected strikes to the head from Amanda Nunes is game over. The other thing it's going to do is it's going to decrease the stamina for Chris Cyborg. And we know that as the stamina gets less, so does the chin, so does everything else. And Amanda can impose her will if she's able to get the stamina advantage here in this fight. But again, more of the same. The strikes are coming out so fast, the variety in how AJ is striking and just stalking Amanda Nunes is unbelievable. But again, the stamina. And we're going to keep talking about the stamina because it's the reason the fight goes the way it does. Nice body kick from Amanda Nunes. Another one doubles up. And AJ, again, going back to the boxing. Boxing again. Amanda so hurt. This is probably the 6th or 7th stun. But the gas tank, and I keep talking about it, but it's the gas tank. And Amanda Nunes is so tough that if you don't manage your stamina, it could be a big problem later in the fight. One thing you got to respect is AJ's ability here still, knowing that Max is adjusted, knowing that Max is going to the body, to stick with the game plan. He's going to be aggressive. He's going to get the 1-2 out quick. What an absolute gem this is. We didn't see it all fight, but we see it here, and it's off the aggression of Chris Cyborg. It all starts with, again, these 3 and 4 strike combos. Amanda knows that she's about to walk into a 3 and 4 strike boxing combo from Chris Cyborg. And look what Amanda does. Amanda is going to slip the left hook of Chris Cyborg. She's going to duck under. Chris Cyborg is definitely going for a ride here. She's overexposed and she's getting dropped. Beautiful takedown there. Nice slam from Amanda. And this is one of the paths to victory for Amanda. The ground and pound is so deadly. And Cyborg, now with the combination of the stamina being pretty rough and the ground strikes, it could have ended there. But Cyborg's so tough. AJ doing a great job of getting up there. You do not want to have multiple postures up on the bottom. She's just too bad. She's too bad. And now, this is really where the fight changes. Chris Cyborg's still unloading the tank with the 3 and 4 strike combos. And you can see AJ is trying to keep Max and the corporation and Amanda honest. She's still digging the leg kicks. Look at this beautiful leg kick. But unlike before, where she was kicking at range, she walks into... She knows now that if she's going to go to the leg kick, she's going to get clipped from Amanda Nunes. And Amanda's not striking with just the lead jab. She's coming with the straight as well. And that lands flush. Beautiful strike from Amanda. And then Amanda goes right back to the tried bread and butter true jab and the straight. And AJ does a phenomenal job here, and I gotta commend both fighters. It's just a beautiful thing to watch. Amanda's overextended. She's throwing a 4 strike combo. Look at how fast the jab comes out. The straight comes out so quick from Chris Cyborg here. Right on the chin of Amanda Nunes, and it's a stun. And that's the counter. We talked about this in round 1. The counter striking is a path to victory. More of the same from Chris Cyborg. Just an absolute predator. Knocks down Amanda Nunes. She has her so badly hurt, and this is just absolute gorgeous technique from Chris Cyborg. You have your fighter hurt, you have Amanda hurt, you know she's one of the most dominant forces in MMA history. Look at the technique here. She knows Amanda's struggling to get back up to her feet, but Amanda desperately wants to get up. Look at this. Look at this. Beautiful judo toss. Catches the right leg. Flips her over. Slams her down hard. Gorgeous from Chris Cyborg. Taking it to the champ. But Amanda's going to make Cyborg work from here. She's too good of a wrestler. Cyborg's going to have to work. And that's exactly what happens here. And this is just so beautiful by the corporation and Amanda Nunes. Just more heart at this point, right? You know that Cyborg has emptied the tank. She's so devastating. Gets to a sprawl. Pushes Chris Cyborg against the cage. And with almost no stamina, this is all will right here. Presses, look at the hip. The hip presses into Chris Cyborg, which blocks her against the cage. And look at this sweep. Look at the footwork. Look at the footwork of Amanda Nunes here. She's going to pivot her left hip over. She's going to grab a collar tie on Chris Cyborg. And she is going to go with a nice hip toss there. Gorgeous hip toss. And what do we see from Amanda Nunes? Her trying to control Chris Cyborg. And that transition there was a big win for Amanda Nunes. She's going to get back up to the feet. And man, these two are such warriors. At this point, I couldn't believe that Amanda was still in this fight. But when Amanda was still in this fight at this point, I felt like she could get this done. Because she saw everything at this point that Chris Cyborg had. Every piece of her arsenal was on display. And you can see now, it's very clear what the strategy is for the corporation and for Max. The counter striking, she's going to slow down the pace. She's going to look for her openings. And this is the in-fight adjustments that really differentiate the top fight camps from the others. Gorgeous 1-2 from Amanda. And look at Chris Cyborg just going for broke. Oof. And this, we got to go back here. So just like in the first round when Amanda was getting a little bit frustrated and a little bit overexposed, throwing some aggressive strikes, here's the same thing from Chris Cyborg. She knows she's getting a little bit too committed to the hands, throwing the 1-2s and the big hooks. Look at the stamina, folks. Look at the stamina. AJ knows he has to attack all levels because the high guard he's not getting through. He throws a beautiful outside leg kick that lands. I'm going to go back because it doesn't land. And this is, again, the skills of the corporation learning and understanding what is coming at him. He knows that AJ needs to go for the legs. Chris Cyborg has to go for the legs to open up the high guard. But she's going to check this kick beautifully. Just that little subtle step back from Amanda. And she's already loading up the right hand. She's going to step in. Look at how overexposed Chris Cyborg is. Her back is to the lioness, which you don't want to do. And this is such a massive overhand. Devastating. Amanda Nunes has Cyborg badly hurt. The stamina is a big problem. Drops Cyborg into the ground and pound. And the fight ends. Just like that. When you think about this fight, you think about a few different things. First thing that comes to mind is what a first round Chris Cyborg had. One of the most dominant first rounds we had seen in the league up until that point. Multiple drops, had the champion badly hurt. But the stamina was a big problem. And the stamina ended up costing Chris Cyborg this fight. Amanda Nunes weathered one of the most crazy storms that we've seen in this league. And when early on in the fight, Chris Cyborg was getting away with the 3 and 4 strike combos because she had the stamina. But at this point, with the stamina advantage being in Amanda Nunes' corner, this heavy strike that gets checked that had been landing previously, but the adjustments of the corporation now had him right where he wanted him, loads up the right hand of Amanda Nunes. As good of a right hand as you're going to see. And that was the end of the fight. What a war between these two. You couldn't ask for a better fight from these two. They put on an absolute show. AJ, so good with Chris Cyborg. Had her so ready to go in this fight. But again, we talk about the lessons learned here. If you're Amanda Nunes, the lessons you learned is I can weather a lot of punishment. I don't have to worry about getting slept early on in this fight. I just have to manage my stamina. I got to manage control of the fight. And my time will come. I will be able to counter. I will be able to box, stay behind the jab, and the ground and pound will catch me up in any fight. The lessons learned for Chris Cyborg in this fight is staying outside, picking apart your opponent and counter-striking is the way to win with Chris Cyborg. Both fighters absolutely incredible and a joy to watch this fight. Coming up next, we have a super exciting fight between Daniel Cormier of the Corporation and Israel Adesanya of the Nation of Domination for the light heavyweight title. Another barn burner fight. You're not going to want to miss it. Stay tuned.
Fight forever. I'm with them. This is incredible.